Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Stop.Sit.Surrogate with Kenedi and Ellen.
Hey, Ruben.
We have a fun podcast today. We have never done this before. I'm so excited. It is a surrogate and her intended mother. So, Lety, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Lety. I'm the surrogate, and I've been on the podcast before. I'm really excited to be back. You guys are super fun to talk to, very easy to spill all the tea and tell you all the details. And so I had to bring my intended mom, which feels so weird saying that because now I'm like, hey, my friend Brie is how I like refer to her now.
Yeah.
To bring her on, I was like, Brie, we have to do this. And I was telling her today, I was like, I think that we're the first ones to do that, where we were like both coming on. And she was like, great. So it took a little scheduling because obviously there's a whole infant involved now.
Yeah.
But she's here with us today, so I'm really excited.
When she sent me the podcast and I heard her story in her first podcast, I was like, I want her to come back. I want it to be amazing and that she can come back. And it really like guided me into even like our relationship, like hearing your experience. I felt like I'm ready to take on like a positive experience with her. So I'm so glad we get to kind of come back around and that you get to have like some happy times.
Yeah. I had briefly told her about like the story, like some of like the more like, shocking details. And then I was like, go on here's the podcast link, like go listen to the whole thing, like, knock yourself out.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to kind of, and like one lunch date to kind of go through the whole thing. And so I was like, and listen to the rest of the stories because this is awesome. And she was so excited. And I was happy that she enjoyed all of the like perspectives on your podcast. So
Well, yay. Well, we're excited to have you both here. And something that we're trying to do this year is actually get more intended parents. We get requests all the time. So I know people are going to be so excited to hear both of you, and it's the same journey. And so I'm kind of excited to see how this is going to unravel in the sense of like each of you giving your experience. So did you guys go through an agency?
Yeah, we did.
You did. Okay.
And
Was
how,
she-
I'm going to ask a question. Okay. So how soon or how long did it take you guys to match? From the time well, let's go back. Lety, were you with the same agency that you did the first one with?
So no, so what I did is a whole lot of research. I ended up going through Surrogacy to find my new agency. And they matched me the first time, and that was like August. Yeah, like September, like August, let's call it August. And that match fell through because it just got really, I was 5 months into the journey and had gotten medically cleared, and they were intended parents were trying to make changes to my contract, and it just kind of got like, well, we'll hold on a minute. And that didn't work out because once like, there's like a line and like you have to go in like with like blinded trust almost, like it's very like small pieces of information you get from these people, and vice versa with them, right? They're trusting you with this thing. So when it gets like muddy, it's just you can't rewind that. So we decided to like we broke up. It's what it felt like in December, like break up. And then I had a whole like month and a half, I think, rewrite, 2 months almost. I was like, I'm done. This is stupid. I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. I had really had a whole like surrogacy crisis where I was like, why am I doing this? Like I'm sitting here in my house crying about something like I signed up for, and like, I should know better, like things happen, but I was so upset. But because I was like looking for this, beautiful experience, and then to start off that way, I'm like, is there anything like, is it gonna, is this what it is? And so I took like a month and a half off before they were like, hey, there's
And then
this
Surrogacy
person.
matched you again with a different agency?
I stayed with the same agency.
They just
I just told them that I was taking a break.
Yeah.
And then that's when like a month and a half, 2 months later, they were like, there's this intended mom.
Yeah, I'm like, all of that happened so that we could get matched. That's
right.
my perspective on the world, is like, it all happens for a reason. And if she hadn't had that blip, you know, we wouldn't have been aligned. So,
Right.
so when it took me a long time to finally like write my intended parent profile. Like, I had a lot of, just because of my own journey getting to this point, it took me a long time to like finally submit my profile and be like, I'm ready to go. And when I did, they sent me 2 profiles, and I saw Lety's profile and I was like, I just felt really drawn to it. But the agency was like, I think you should really try to talk to this other person. And we had an interview, and I was just like, it's a no. Like, there were kind of circumstances, distance and all kinds of stuff. But there were so many things about Lety that I felt already aligned with what I was hoping for. Even like her location, like there were reasons that it was really, I was like, this could work out really well for me, and this could be really beautiful, because I'd known the place from my past. And she was in early childhood, and I was like, this is great because we can connect. You know, we don't only have to connect about the baby and surrogacy. We can connect on lots of different levels, on a friend level and even a professional level. And that was really important to me, that we had multiple levels of connection, so that it could be, it could be a friendship and not just centered around, the baby.
Right.
Yeah.
Glad you went with your gut. Very glad you went. I'm sure you are too, but
Yeah.
that's what people have to do. Have to go with their gut. Surrogates and intended parents. It has to go both ways. You feel a little off, you can't, because you may go down a road and have to break up like Lety did. Right?
It is. Yeah. And it is that like, it's so much trust. And then it's also like split second decisions, because a lot of agencies are like, you have 24 hours to think about this. And you're like,
Oh, are they really?
Wow.
I think it might have been like 2 days or something to say, make it just, if you want to continue, it's not like a all, you're all in, but they want to be able to like show profiles to other people. And I think Lety said yes, like right at the end of the interview. And I was like, well, I'm going to wait 24 hours and think about it. But I already knew. I was like, especially because the last one I'd had such a like visceral, like, this isn't the right match. And after Lety, I just felt so peaceful. It was really like, it was great.
That's awesome.
And it's been like that ever since.
Oh, I'm so happy.
I love this.
Okay, so how soon from match to transfer? Do we have a lot of work we had to do, or was it?
We talked, so when I finally came off my break, one of the case managers was like, you have to talk to an intended mom. And she's like single. She's like, and I know you have like, she knew my story. So she's like, but she's like, I'm telling you, and what I loved about this agency is that all of the case managers have been surrogates. She's like, I'm telling you right now that if I was doing another journey, I'd snag her up. I wouldn't even tell you about her. She's like, we love her like she is. And just like how she talked about Brie, I was like, fine, I'll talk to her, but like in 2 weeks, I was like trying to get over my, and I read her profile, and then I think talked in January, like towards the end of January, and then scheduled a medical clearance or like appointment for clearance in March. So I went up to Oregon, and then met Brie in person for the first time, and then went to
we had fun. We like went out shopping and got donuts, and
it was great. And then right away, like legal started, right? It takes like 2 weeks to get cleared, and then legal started, and that felt like a long 6 or 8 weeks. And I was just telling her before we came on, I was like, hey, remember legal? That was crazy. We're kind of, there's a lot of waiting. And I remember telling Brie this. I was like, there'll be one day where you're waiting, and then all of a sudden you get a call and they're like, we need this tomorrow, or we need this yesterday. Like yesterday we needed it. Like it's go time, right?
Yeah.
And she really had her heart set on a June transfer, and as we started to like approach us, like, hey, we might want to check like when they need legal by, because I know it feels like we have time, but because of my cycle and all that. And sure enough, we called the agency, I mean the clinic that same day, and they're like, oh yeah, we need this by like tomorrow if you want to do a transfer. So we had 24 hours to wrap up. Like we thought we had like, you know, and they're like, yeah, we need this tomorrow. And so we got it done though.
Oh, good for you.
Oh, wow.
And this is like, I'm pretty woo woo. So all along the way, there's been these like little signs that have come up. And I had a cat who passed away on the 5th of May. And it was the year anniversary of her passing, the day we got cleared to move forward. And so I just felt like this was like this way of like revisioning this, like what could have been a really painful anniversary. And I was like, it's all meant to be. This
like
is
celebratory instead.
Yeah, it was really, it just like, I just was like, hey, this is great. This is going to work out. Yeah. And we made it for the June transfer.
That's great.
Crazy.
And
Okay,
it was,
so
go ahead.
Ellen, let me ask a question. Okay, so how many embryos did you have to, yeah, see, we're in sync, Ellen, love you. So how many embryos did you have ready, I guess?
14.
Oh my
Wow,
goodness,
you go,
bless
girl.
your heart.
Well, so it was from an egg donor. So I did a lot of IVF. I had one viable embryo, did a transfer myself, didn't work. So it was this kind of pre-surrogacy. And I finally got to the point where I'm like, I got to use an egg donor. This is what I'm going to do. I had an abundance of embryos. And it was another piece where I was like, once I went on the side road to surrogacy, everything was just like flowed so easily. And it was just like, there was no like, we're like, if it takes 3 times, it doesn't, I mean, obviously it's a lot of work and pain, but there wasn't that kind of like energy of there's only one left, you know, it's just like, this doesn't work. It wasn't meant to be.
Pressure off, like
Right,
in
pressure
that
off.
sense, because
Absolutely.
you know, embryos are like,
wow. Well, more
Yeah, I
power
know
to
that.
you.
Yeah, that pressure life is not great.
and you know what? That was one of the things, like when I talked to when we were talking about matching and they were telling me all how wonderful Brie was, I was like, how many embryos does she have? Are they tested? Like, I've done this before, like tell me all the things, because like before, you know, I was very like, okay, hold on. And then also, you know, I've heard all of these stories about intended moms and how they could be a certain way. And I remember I was very forthcoming, and you guys know this is just how I am. But I was like, is she ready to let go of being able to carry her own baby?
Yeah.
And then I just like paused and I was like, I need to have that question answered, because I am not prepared to carry that like burden of like having me and her have connection issues, because she hasn't done the work. You know, like I wasn't like sure like what all brought her to surrogacy, but because of the community and how much people have shared with me either like personally or on the like on Instagram and like shared publicly. I was like, one of the things I was like really concerned about is, hey, like who's her support system, and is she ready to have someone else, you know, carry a baby for her?
Those are great questions.
We talked about at the meeting.
Yeah.
So Brie, can I ask you, Brie, is that something that you mentally prepared yourself for, obviously before coming to surrogacy? Like, because I hate, because I used to feel the same way, and I matched with a single mom, and I couldn't have found a better human being in my entire life throughout all my journeys. So I really hate that that's a stigma that is out there for single moms, because yes, you're always going to hear the scary stories, but guess what? You can hear that about dads. Like, but I think just as women, we already know that other women, like, it can be a hard thing to navigate. So you obviously were not worried about this going into surrogacy.
Yeah, I specifically took time after my whole thing to really make sure I was ready to let go and just see what else happened. And in some ways, I think single moms actually might be better equipped to do it because they've already been doing a lot of this themselves, and they've had to go through some really dark nights of the soul already without sharing it with somebody else. And so there were times when it was hard, but number one, Lety said that early on. And so I knew that if I had that moment, it wasn't something I needed to share with her. I could share it with somebody else if I had it. But honestly, like it was just different, I was just like, because it was going so well, I just kept coming back to like, this is how it's supposed to be. And honestly, like my whole time, I've always wanted to be pregnant. I've always wanted to carry a child. I always had this piece of me that was like, I'm not going to get to do that. And so like I didn't know if it was a self-fulfilling prophecy or if I was just like mentally preparing for years to feel this way. And again, once we got to this point and it went so well, I was like, this is how it's supposed to be. And now, of course, with my baby, I'm just like, it wouldn't have been any other way. If everything had lined up, she wouldn't be here, and it's just looking back, it feels so easy and fine. And there are a couple moments that were hard, but it was like maybe a night. And then but it was because I did a lot of work beforehand and just had to be like, am I ready to let this go? I felt like surrogacy was the next best thing to carrying my own child because I could participate in the pregnancy. I could be involved in all of those moments of discovery and wonder. And, it was just like a really nice appeal of surrogacy to be able to still share that to some degree. So it was like a bonus versus something that was like taking away from my own experience.
Wow.
And that was actually one of the things that I was really like thankful for, not in like oh, I'm glad that like not in that sense, but thankful that she could understand my discomfort through the IVF process. She could understand the discomfort of a transfer, and she could understand like the discomfort of the shots and how you're just like, and all of this, it has to come from love. Like there's just, yes, there's compensating all the things, but at the foundation has to be like, you want to do this for someone else. And she understood how hard IVF is because she has done it. And also how like the statistics of like the 65% of like success rate, of a transfer. And so she made me feel like if it didn't work, like it was gonna be okay. Like it just completely like that she understood, and I knew she did on a different level. And I think that made such a like peaceful like just situation in that, and those like hard times, like the 2-week wait and like the after the transfer and during the med protocol, whatever. So it's just, it was different.
Which sounds like that difference was a good difference for you guys. You on the same page, it seems like the whole time. You were just meant, it just seems like you were meant to be like matched. Like she said, I say that all the time, Brie. Things happen for a reason. Do it all the time. I completely get what you're saying.
1,000%.
Yep.
Okay. Well, can we? Okay, I wanted to get into the fun stuff. I wanted to get into the baby.
Yeah,
okay.
Let's get into it. Yeah.
Okay.
We found out how many embryos. We got it.
Yeah. No. Okay. So, so then you guys get to do transfer, and you wanted to do a June transfer. Lety, just real quick, were they shots, suppositories, patches?
Yeah. So they were all shots. No,
all shots.
I don't think I had suppositories. And
oh, your poor butt.
Yeah, that's okay. I know, it was awful. Like you forget, right? Like right now, I still remember a little bit, but like ask me in 2 months, and I'm like, it's that bad.
Right.
But yeah, it was all shots. So
okay, love that. I would take that any day of the week. So when it comes to transfer, are we transferring one? Are we transferring two? We transferred one.
That was something we definitely talked about at the beginning. I was like, no. Like, I know that's like 0.00 whatever percentage, but I don't want to even take that. Like, like if it splits, wonderful, I'll carry because it's like meant to be. But we are not doing gumbo for myself. It was like that's not and we were on the same page, so it was just one. We were.
And Lety, did you travel to do transfer? Did you travel somewhere? You said Oregon in the beginning. Okay.
I'm in Southern California, so I went up to Oregon for transfer.
Okay.
Okay.
And your protocol, did he or she, the clinic, did they put you on bed rest, or was it transfer and live your life?
It was
24 hours or something.
24 hours of like actual bed rest, like just kind of like
hang
chill,
out,
don't get up, as much as and then after that it was like you could go on and so I think we did for 24 hours, and then the next day we still took it really easy. Like it was very like just we went out, we walked a little bit, but nothing like crazy. So I think I stayed 3 days up there, right? And then traveled.
Yeah. Well, and it was funny because I had so many embryos, I agonized over which like number, they all have my like initials and then a number. And I was like, should it be 7? Should it be number 10? And like we talked with Lety. And so like finally we decide, and I email the clinic and tell them the number we want, like the number embryo. And we get there the next day and I was like, okay, so which number? They're like, we're doing number 4. And I was like, that's not the one we chose. Like it was just this whole, I mean, it was the same like predicted sex, but it was, I was just like, well, I thought I had some control, and here's just another reminder, and it's still out, and again, like number 4 turned out to be a winner.
Okay. She's great. She's so cute. The cutest.
So first transfer took.
Yes. Transfer. Yes. And you have the embryo picture, and the doctor, when she's transferring it, she's like, that looks like a little chicken, a chicken mobile, and because it looked like a little chicken with like wheels or something. And so from that moment on, she was little chicken.
Oh, that's so cute.
And our transfer day was so they put us in this room. I have to tell you guys, the AC is not working very well in there, and then
in June
I have to get into like just like a gown, right? So I'm like chilling. It's kind of hot, but I'm like also on all these hormones, so I'm like, maybe it's just me. And then they hand this like plastic suit to Brie, and they're like, put this on, and she was like, oh my god, is it hot in here? Like I was like, no, it's hot in here, but I thought it was me. She's like, no, it's not you. And she's like sweating, and I'm sweating, and we were like, okay, well, this is fun,
Oh gosh.
And then so we had the transfer. It was like super smooth, and then they're wheeling me back to the room, and they bump like the side of the and then Bree's like, well, oh, okay. And then the doctor makes the chicken, she's like, oh, look at the embryo, looks like a little chicken. And so it was very like
eventful.
Okay, what just happened?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I was like, what is our playlist gonna be like when they transfer in? And it's gonna be like all this like woo and magic, and it was just like
boom boom. Like, comedy of boom 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 boom. Like, roller coaster, boom boom.
Funny.
And they walk out of the room and they go do the next one. Like it's like biggest day of your life, but like they're like, it's what we do all day. Okay.
Off to the next.
Like, all right, have fun. Bye guys.
Yeah.
Funny.
So oh my gosh. So
but it was fun to like bitch about it too, because we were just, it's uncomfortable. The whole thing's uncomfortable, and you're like kind of awkward, and like when you have some, friction to bond over, I feel like we were like, those guys,
yeah. Probably put you at ease too, if you think about it, like all the laughs and everything. It was just more like calm natured, and
Did you guys agree to test prior to the beta, or did you say no, we're waiting for the blood test?
No, I was like, Brie, I'm testing. Do you want to know, or do you want to be part of it? Like,
I was like every single one.
I could not lie and not and like sleep. I'm like, I'm sure like it would have been fine. Like it would not the end of the world. Yeah. But I was like, oh man, what if she like, I'm just gonna tell her like, this is what I would like to do. And she's like, and then she hits me like, well, yeah, but can we FaceTime? Like I wanna, and I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, like while it's like loading.
No pressure.
Oh God.
Well, and that's the thing. I think that's like a good point, Letty, because I was like, yeah, of course I want to be part of it, but I didn't really think about on the other side, the pressure that she's feeling
Yeah.
to like, like, have that same experience at the same time, and like maybe that what it means if it doesn't take is really different for the two of us. And so she played along, but there were times when it was good to remember that there's some vulnerability there, and that there's levels of privacy that each party want to maintain. And I think that part of why our experience works so well is that we really kind of fell into those things, and it respected that we would ask for it if we needed it, and then share as much as we wanted or
like
could.
A happy medium. I was like, okay, like we could do that, but like I'm gonna pee in a cup and then I'll call you after.
That's fair.
Like, and she's like, yeah, that's totally fine. I'm like, okay, like
and she's like, I see a line, and I was like, well, I don't think there is one. I don't know. I don't believe it.
You're like,
wait, Letty saw a line and you didn't, Brie?
Well, no, we did, but I was just like, well, it might not be. I just was really ready for it to end up. I was just like, whatever happens is fine.
Yeah.
Like maybe overly so, but I just wanted to be like, it's whatever happens, because I didn't want it to be some big thing. Yeah. But of course, like every night you're like, I saw that line. You changed the like contrast on your picture to make it darker.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Right.
That's
I was like,
hilarious.
And obviously we're like FaceTime, right? So like it's hard enough to see it like in person when you're like 4 or 5 days past transfer. You're like angling, shutting one eye, like putting it up to the light, going, different lighting. And so I was like, I see a line, and I was like showing her, and she's like, she's like, I kind of see it, like, so it's really awkward. Like, I was like, oh my gosh.
I have to ask, what brand? Do you remember the brand?
Yeah, it was like the first response, early whatever.
Interesting. Okay, just curious. I've been hearing things about the first response, so I was just curious if that was the one you took. Okay.
Yeah, so that's the one I took, and then I was like, I swear it's there. Like, you have to believe.
It's hard. But then if you look at it too long, then after like surrogates, and like we've had our own children, right? So like I feel like sometimes I might see a line that my brain is making me see the line, and I'm like, is it
line eyes?
Yeah. Is it the fake line or is it the real line? Like,
am I seeing a shadow? Is the shadow?
Right. Yeah.
And then and then I send it to like, 5 surrogate friends on Instagram, and they're like 100% they're lying. Right. And I'm like, okay, I'm not crazy, right? Like that's how it's like, it's just not real unless you sent it to your Instagram surrogate friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you need at least like 5 confirmed line seers to
like we can't all have line eyes.
No, not at all. Not at all. Although we could be like just pea stick basis as like surrogates. Who knows? But okay.
I think that until the beta, it was still up in there, and so it's like all the tests, I was like, it says it's true. It says it's true. But you kind of I needed to keep
the numbers.
I mean, she's the one who's feeling it. So like there's me being like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen, because that's my worst fear. And there's her being like, no, I feel things. And I just have to be like, okay, I trust the line. I trust the numbers. And, it was good to remember that she's done this before, and she knows. And also like, she's a straight shooter. So she's not going to pull the wool over my eyes to make it like, sure. She's like, yes or no, this is how it is.
You don't have to answer, Brie, but can I ask, was there a time like week number, maybe 20, where you went, this is happening, I'm getting a daughter? Like you just believed in the process and here we go.
Or was she born?
Or were you so just held back just a little bit until you literally had her in your arms?
Yeah.
Great question.
Yeah, that's the stuff we don't get to hear from intended parents. So I was just curious, do you ever relax a little? Like a little?
I mean, I do think there was levels of relaxing. The 10-week ultrasound, when I saw her like doing little backflips and like little teeny tiny doing backflips, I'm like, that's something. That's not just like some cells. That's like an active human to be. which she never stopped doing, but she's like, she's ready to crawl, and she's only 4.5 months old, and she is like moving. And, and so but I do think that, I think maybe once we hit viability, I was like, okay, I can finally start to relax. But
not all the
once
way
she
out.
out, maybe that was, but even then, it was like, what?
Yeah.
Over here, I mean, there's always, I mean, I think finally now I'm like, this is my child, but it's hard. I think
you're like, wake up at 4 a.m.
Oh my God,
what is this?
yeah. But it is. I do think that I had to remind myself to just be okay with whatever happened. And that was really what got me to relax. Not that like it was okay, but just like whatever happens, it's gonna be okay.
Okay.
And it's different because it's not like I'm gonna get the baby at the end. It's like, this is meant to be. Whatever happens, we're gonna learn from this, we're gonna grow from it. That's just like my perspective in life. And I just had to continue to remind myself. But I trust Lety, and I always trusted that I just trusted that she knew what she was doing. And that helped me just be like, I don't have that much control either way. Neither of us really do. And this is what's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, it's a long time of waiting for a baby. Like, I'm 46, and that was a lot of time. So to actually think it's happening once, I think it was more of like a surprise when I was like, oh crap, like, beyond a certain point in my journey, it was always like, okay, now it's a stop. And so when she was pregnant, I was like, oh, well, this is a whole new level of stuff I don't know.
When we so like after we did that P test, and then we had like, was it 10 days, 13 days, 12 days? It wasn't so bad. It was like day 11 or whatever, they were gonna do the blood test. But I went to Universal like, I think 8 days past transfer, when I had my little electric car. And then on my way home, I told my husband, I was like, Chris, we're stopping at CVS. He's like, for what? I'm like, a pregnancy test, a digital one and a first response. He's like, we just do it when we get home? I was like, absolutely not. No. And he was like, okay, that's what we're doing. So he took me to the pharmacy, and I bought the test. And then I went to the bathroom because, we're all a little crazy, right? I mean, to do surrogacy, you have to be a little bit
crazy.
Yeah. So I go into the bathroom, I pee on both tests, I put them back in the bag, I go in the car, and my husband's like, where are they? I was like, oh, I went into the bathroom. And he was like, what? What is happening? And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna check him now. And I remember I text Brie, and it was like a yes with the plus, or pregnant or something. And I was like, what?
I know. I was like, once we have the yes one, and I'll believe the next level.
I feel like I needed to see it before the blood, because it like takes forever to get the results, and everyone's like,
everyone's holding their breath.
Stressful day, I feel.
Yeah.
So the pregnancy, does it go really well? Do you have any hiccups? Are you put on bed rest? Is it just a model pregnancy?
For me, it was the harder of the three, because I think I'm just getting old, like pregnancy is not the same when you're 28 and when you're 34 or whatever.
True.
But it was not like unheard of pregnancy symptoms. I had was more nauseous. I had migraines this time of the first trimester that were trying to take me out. Thankfully, I'm a teacher and I have the summers off. And so I just napped. I'd wake up and eat breakfast, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. And I go back to sleep. So it worked out where like the summer was the worst of it. And that was like really it. Everything was pretty much.
You had that one little bleeding,
oh yes, we did have a
whatever it was.
You had a SHC.
Yes, but you know what? It was terrifying because I had one last time, and I had a little bit of spotting, but like I never passed anything.
You passed.
This time it was like the clot the size of what you would imagine the sac would be at the time. And it happened. How many weeks was I, Brie?
I think it was
First
after
trimester?
Yeah, it was
her
probably
first
like
trimester.
12 or it was I think it was after the 10-week ultrasound, right? It was like late August,
It,
I think.
I think it was, yeah, something like that. So I
Wow.
passed a clot like the size of what you would, and I was,
Freaked out.
yeah, it was like 3 in the morning, and I'm like screaming for my husband, and he's like half asleep. He's like, "What's happening?" And I
Oh my
just
God.
happened to dial my case manager, and as soon as she happened to answer the phone, she's like, "You're bleeding." Like, cause it's like, she just like knew, like if I'm calling her at 3 in the morning, like
Right,
something
something.
must be happening. And she's like, "Okay, like calm down." And I didn't tell Brie till I think the next day because I know her very well, and like there's nothing that she was gonna be able to do, and
Yeah.
all it was gonna do is make it where
Panic.
she isn't gonna sleep the rest of the night, you
Right.
know?
Right.
And so, but I did tell her, obviously, but
Yeah.
it was like next day, like I went to the emergency room the next day just to like have them check on the baby. And so I was like, "Hey, this happened, but like everything's okay. And here's like, um, and I think we both agree that that was probably a good call. Just
Yeah.
we didn't need two people like panicking."
No, for
No.
sure.
Well, and
Yeah.
I think what's interesting because I feel like all the pieces of her gestation and even her birth, I like got to come in afterwards and be like, everything's okay. So there was this like really nice bubble of blissful unknowing that just happened.
Yeah.
I mean, it just happened, and we'll get to her birth eventually, and that funny story. But it was like, again, like I just felt really calm the whole time, even with these little hiccups, and it was scary, but it was
And
also explainable. So
yeah. And you said it before, you trusted Letty.
yeah,
That's
I
huge.
did.
You trusted
Yeah,
her.
exactly.
And that's a really, really big word. You trust your
And from
surrogate.
the
I think,
beginning, she's known what I needed. Like
Yeah.
even during legal, she'd be like, "Let me just give you a heads up about what the next piece looks like." She's a teacher. I have some neurodivergence, and she's like, I'm going to prepare you so that you know what to expect for the next day." And it was so helpful that she could see that so early on. And so, like, again, like with her communication, I knew that, again, she would tell me when it was important.
yeah.
Right.
Okay, so let's get to the birth. Let's the pregnancy was
Yeah.
pretty good, right? Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, everything.
I have to interject. We did we got to hang out kind of periodically through the time that she was pregnant because I did want to be part of some of that. So we went on like a weekend retreat in Laguna and went and hung out, went to the beach. And then I came down for the anatomy scan. So I came down a couple of times and stayed at her house. And so there was a lot of beautiful times to spend together and build a relationship with Letty and also her family. So that by the time I got down for the birth and we were waiting for 5 weeks or whatever it was, like, I'm coming down early. I'm going to be there just in case. And Letty's like, I think it's going to be early. And we got to spend a lot of time together at that
So
point.
funny.
See. Okay, so yeah, so how did birth go? Because you're let's just go with 40 weeks, right? You thought it was early, you're at 40 weeks.
I
What do
had
we
a
do?
lot of pelvic pressure and like pain, and like now I know what it like was or whatever. Like I have to like Google it again to tell you exactly what the term is, but it just takes some like it happens sometimes early when you're like 3, 4 pregnancies in, and then it just kind of
Oh,
goes away
great.
when your pelvic muscle and you know just
Is it,
re
yeah.
I don't know, but it was super painful. And I was like, this child is gonna pop out any minute, right? And that was my experience. And so I told Brie, I was like, I don't know that like I can have this much pelvic pressure and pain and go 5 more weeks. And then guess what? We were like at week 40 and we were like, WTF, like what is happening?
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
and so she had been up here and we had a plan for birth. Like, so the plan was if I, went into labor that we would, all drive down. She wanted to kind of be close to me. So she was like 10 minutes away. And then we got to week 41 and then they scheduled my induction. And so we were like, okay, we were gonna drive down. Check-in was like at 9:30. That was really annoying. You don't know till like the day of, like what time they want you to come in.
Right.
They're like, maybe 7. Oh no, you know what? 9. I'm just come at 30. And I'm like, we're all like, on edge.
Yeah.
And so Brie booked a hotel like 5 minutes away from the Kaiser, which is funny because you'll understand why next later. But so we had a room, like Chris, my husband and I had a room, and then Brie had a room, and then Krista, who I think you know who Krista is, and she was our doula. So she was there too. So we went down there, and so I check in 9:30, and I'm gonna get induced. I've never been induced before, so I'm already kind of like, oh my God, what? I'm just like,
the unknown. Right.
Yeah. And so,
It's different.
they do like the pill and they're trying to soften your cervix.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know what? This is like an 8-hour thing. Then we do a second dose, or like 4-hour thing, and then we do a second dose. I'm like, well, how many doses do people need normally right now? I'm like, give me a timeline. Like, am I here for a day? Am I here for 5 days? Like, what are we talking about? And they're like, it's different, but it usually is like 2 days. Okay, cool. So at 11, Bree stayed at the hotel. 11, I told Krista and my husband, I was like, just go. We're like 10. It's like, just go, get some sleep. I will call you when things are happening.
Like, and Krista was like, it's gonna be a long.
It sounds like I'll see you at 7 a.m. tomorrow. We'll see what's gonna happen.
It'll be a long haul.
And then they come and give me the second. Oh, and then they checked for I respectfully declined all of my cervix checks, right? Like before I hit the 40 weeks. So I was like, no, thank you. I'm very uncomfortable and you do not need to be all up in my cervix. Like there's no labor signs. So when we get to the hospital, it was the first time they checked
at 41. So at 41 weeks was the first time you had a cervix check.
Yes.
So membranes weren't stripped, nothing.
No, I declined. And me and Brie had talked about this.
Yeah.
And I was very like, this is how I would like to do it. And she was like, I'm totally on board. So we were on the same page about that.
Okay. Yeah.
And
so also like I feel like it adds undue pressure when you get a cervix check, and it's like it could still be like 3 days.
Right.
Or
yeah, you could be 4 centimeters dilated for a week. Like means nothing. So she checks me for the first time. She's like, well, you're 1 centimeter dilated.
Great.
If we can call it that.
Time, like 4 in the morning, or
I was like, okay. But this was at first like check in when they're doing all the things. Then they put the pill in, and then 4 hours later, they're like, we'll check you again. And then they're like, well, you're like 1.5, maybe 2. And I was like,
oh my God.
Okay.
I'm sorry, are you not on Pitocin at this time?
No.
Why?
They're just trying to ripen her cervix with the pill.
They're trying to soften my cervix with the pill.
Yeah.
So this, I made them break it down, and I was like, Crystal, listen up, because you're gonna explain it to me after if they use too many, how sometimes it can be.
For sure.
They're like, we soften your cervix, we get you to 2. Once you're to 2, we start the Pitocin, we get you to 4, then you can get your epidural, then, like what, and
your water.
I had asked them, like, when can I get my epidural? They're like, really any time, because it's an induction. You can get it now. You can wait later.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, like, I don't need an epidural. I'm not even having contractions. Like, I want to be able to go to the bathroom and, like, get up and walk. Like, who knows how long this is going to take. So then it was like, hold on, I'm trying to do math. Okay, so they put the second dose in 4 hours later. So we're like at 2, and then they said I was 1.5 centimeters. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm going to need like 100 doses of this thing, right?
Right.
So I texted Krista and my husband, and I was like, guys, just be here early in the morning, like 6-ish, and I'm 1.5 centimeters. And then they said that there's not like, that they're going to check me on the next dose, which wasn't till, I believe, 5 in the morning. And I was like, so don't even rush back. We're good.
And our plan for labor was that Lety would do a lot of labor by herself, and then I would come for the like actual pushing and stuff at the end. So she was going to be with her husband and our doula, you know, for most of the day in our heads. That's what I thought. And then I would just be kind of on standby waiting until the time came.
We were timed, like, okay, you know, like, so, and I'm also like, if I can't sleep, that's one thing, but like I need my husband rested, I need the doula rested, like mom needs to be rested for baby, like you guys go and get some sleep. And so then she leaves, and they come in for my vitals at one point, like 2 hours later, so midway through like the dose, and she leaves, and I don't know, 5 minutes later, I get these contractions that are so painful. I cannot even like, I was like holding on for dear life, and I was,
oh my gosh,
from like not having it was like very mild cramping, you know, like nothing really, to these like 3 back-to-back contractions. And so I push the call button. I text my husband and Krista, because the 3rd contraction broke my water.
Wow.
That's how strong it was.
So
It
you
was
had,
like,
hold on, I just want to make sure. So you only had the 2 pills, no Pitocin yet.
Not yet. Okay.
Okay.
So they kind of did their job.
Yeah,
Seems like it.
seriously.
Seems
And
like
I tell them, I was like, my water just broke. Come now.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then that's all I sent, because I wasn't so like, I had, mind you, I had not had a Tylenol at this point, right?
Oh.
So,
Plan was for
the
epidural,
nurse
like
comes
all the
in,
way.
and keep in mind, she just left, and she checked my vitals. She checked the contraction paper. Nothing was happening. Like 10 minutes before, she comes back and she goes, "Oh, wow. Okay." And I was like, "And my water just broke." And she was like, "Yeah, let me check you again." Right. So she goes in and she's like, "Oh yeah, you're 6.5."
Whoa, that's a huge jump.
And yes. And then so,
and this was all within like 45 minutes, right? Or
well, yeah, she had put the pill in, well, 2 hours before, but it takes like some time for it to start. It was like an hour and a half of chill time. Then I started to get a little bit of like more like period cramps, not really contractions, but the first contraction was these like huge 3 back to back. Wow. And so she goes, "Okay, let's, you know," and I said, "Okay, can I get my epidural now?" Right? Like, it's time. Like, I need it. She's like, "Sure." She calls the anesthesiologist, and the lady gets there, and she's, you know, it doesn't take too long for her to get there, but then she's asking me all these questions, and I'm starting to have like back to back to back contractions, and I can like barely talk through them. And so they're like, "Hey, are you sure you want to do that?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely." Right. And at this point, no one's there with me. So I'm also starting to like go into full like terror, panic, like check mark all of the things, like right before you think this is like your last day on earth. Like, I was just terrified.
Yeah.
Right. And so she goes, "Okay." And then they lower the bed all the way down, and they sit me in, like, you know, my hips need to be aligned, blah blah blah. They start, and I have ADHD, so I already talk fast, and when people talk slow, I'm like, in a normal circumstance, I'm like, I need speed.
Yeah.
Relevant information now.
Yeah. And so add contractions and hormones, and she's going through like what she's going to do. And I'm like, "Okay, can we go faster, please? Like, can we please go faster?"
Oh.
So she's, you know, prepping me, and she's going through all of the steps. I have to sign a consent form in the middle of that.
Wow.
And then my nurse, Victoria, which angel straight from heaven, landed in my delivery room, because I would not have been able to do any of this without her.
Aww.
She's talking to me, and she's like, "Letty, are you having the urge to push?" I think she can see my face and like feel my body. And I'm like, "No, I think I'm okay." And then this like urge to push comes as soon as she finished that sentence. And then I feel the baby drop. Like, because I'm sitting, I just like felt like this, like, and I was like, "I need to lay down, like, you need to turn me, like, we need to," and the anesthesiologist has to like back up. They're like, "You know how slow that bed rises?"
Oh God, like an elevator.
They have to rise the bed so that they can like turn me. And the pain is so crazy at this point that I'm starting to like scream, you know, because I also have to like try to move myself, and I couldn't because I had pretty much lost control of
Very large head.
my body, because I just so much pain, like my legs are shaking, my whole body's shaking. I can't even.
And you're still alone, right?
And I'm
no
still
support.
alone because my husband's there, and they wouldn't let him in because they're doing the epidural. They won't let anyone in. So finally, when they said, okay, he got there and they had already started the procedure. So then nobody can come in once that happens.
I was gonna say
no,
it's because they started it, and
because they started it.
You
I got
can't,
it.
He has to wait till it's done. If he had been in before, he would have been able to be in there.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and so then when that happened, they told him like, you can come back. And my husband's like, I was there, like, okay, you can come on back. They didn't tell him anything. He's like, so I'm walking and I hear someone screaming. They're like, and he's like, damn, that lady's like, and then he's like, I got closer and he was like, oh crap, that's Lety. I better walk faster.
Oh no.
And so he gets into the room and they're like turning me. There's probably like 5 nurses in the room at this point.
Oh my God.
By the way, they all also looked very terrified. So it made me feel like
scared,
because I think it went so fast. Like they were not at all. They didn't have like the baby stuff prepared. It went just
So we need to pause for 5 seconds. Brie, none of this is going on, correct? None.
I think
you're having a mimosa over at the hotel. I don't know.
I'm still sleeping because they're like, you have all day. And I'm blissfully sleeping. I think maybe at this point, Krista has come over and knocked and she's like, you need to get up and get going because it's going quickly. So I'm like, okay, like I go brush my teeth.
Hospital. Wait,
I'm at the hotel. No, I'm at the hotel across the street. Krista's still at the hotel because we're going to go together. Chris, Lety's husband, goes quickly. Krista and I are like, it's like literally 15, 20 minutes that I'm just gathering. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be there. I have to like pack my little bag because I was like, I have all day.
Right.
So we'll go back to this and then I'll give you. So I'm at this moment brushing my teeth very like, okay, I'm getting ready, but it's like 20 minutes between the time that Krista knocks on my door. It might've been a little bit longer, but it was a very short period of time. And I'm just trying to like come to myself, get ready to go over. In the meantime, back at the hospital.
Yeah, this is a hallmark movie. Like Brie brushing your teeth and then pan to me screaming and then back to Brie brushing her teeth.
Oh my God.
So
nobody told you the urgency? I'm just curious. Nobody, because Krista didn't know.
Anybody knew the urgency.
I don't think anybody really knew how. I mean, there was like, let's get going, but I don't think it was like you have minutes urgency. It was like, it's going to be within the night, But I think even with Lety, you were communicating through text, and all you could do was very short.
Well, I just said my water broke, get here now, and that was it. Like I was done. I couldn't like
get your phone, do all that. Yeah, you have to labor now.
And so, I think how that translates to everyone else, because you don't know the context of get here now means like, hey, like come now, or like come, like run here now. Like I don't know that got translated, but because of my situation, there was like nothing else that I could do.
Right.
Obviously, my husband knows me the best out of all of the people that are with me there, so he was like. Right away, right? He's like, I couldn't even find the toothpaste. I was just like, I'm leaving. Like, we're going. So I don't think it translated, but again, there wasn't much room for me or time for me to like explain it was just like,
and nobody anticipated it going that
quick.
And
nobody anticipated, even the nurses I'm telling you were like
hours.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So then my husband's coming down the hall. Right? Rewind your husband, and he's like, okay, well, I need to hurry. He gets into the room. I didn't see all this, but he said that one of the nurses was like, okay, sir, you can go have a seat back there, and I'm still screaming. I'm terrified. I finally see him walk in, and I kind of just like, okay, like I'm not gonna have to do this by myself. right?
Yeah.
All right, so Chris is told to go sit in the back, and I'm in shock, and I'm still terrified, and I'm trying to figure out what's happening. And the nurse is like in my face going, Lety, you have to push. We need to, like, you need to concentrate. And I think she could see like how terrified I was. And I was like, I am not doing anything until my husband is like right here. And so they're like, sir, you need to get up. And poor Chris is like, okay, like, you know, trying to follow instructions. And he gets there and he's like, it's okay. I'm here. Like, it's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. Like, he's trying to reassure me. I think he could also see like the terror. And then
do they recheck you after you've scooted around and laid back down? They don't, because they just know it's
they just know. They're just like, because I think they could see her head at that point, like,
probably, right.
And so they're like, you need to push. And again, I don't have any medication, no epidural. My husband finally gets there, so I'm just like, okay, like I can do this if he's here. Like I felt like, okay. And so I pushed. A very different experience, because when you have an epidural and you push, one, you can't tell if you're pushing, and two, you have to have them like help you. You know what I mean? Like there's like
did you feel my sister
everything?
Did you feel my sister just had her second and she didn't have time to have an epidural? She's like, I felt the ring of fire. And I was like, from like Nemo, the ring of fire? Like, I don't understand. What do you mean the ring of fire? I've had an epidural every single time. So I'm like, what is this?
So I push once, and because I can feel everything.
Oh my God.
I'm like, I don't want to do that again. Like, you know, but she's like, one more push. That's all we need. One more push. We need to get her. And there's like urgency in her voice. She's like, look at me, Lety. Like we're going to do this. And she's like, I just need one push from you. And I'm screaming because all these contractions are happening still. And then also like, I just pushed and it like hurt a lot. So, she's like, but it needs to be like a very good push. And then we'll be done, you know?
God.
And so then I'm like bearing down, I push, baby comes out, and yes, you feel the ring of fire, which just feels like your crotch is on fire. Like it literally, you could feel like the stretch. Like that was probably the loudest scream, you know? And then she was out, and there was no doctor. No doctor. He didn't even make it. There's 6 nurses now. The baby's like on the bed, and they're like, you know, rubbing her and trying to get her to cry and stuff. And all I'm saying is like, is she okay? Is she okay? Is everything okay? And they're like, yeah, she's fine. Like, and then I start immediately sobbing because I'm just like, what just happened? Right.
Right.
And then I go look over at my husband and I was like, where's Brie? Like, where are they? Right. But I also don't know how much time has passed.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Not very much.
I don't know how much time has passed. And like, where is everyone? And like, where were you? He's like, I was in the waiting room. Like they wouldn't let me in. And but the baby was perfect.
Had you guys talked about who was gonna, if you were gonna do skin to skin, or if you were gonna take baby right away? What was that plan?
Yeah, I wanted baby to go right on Lety and then have a little time and then come to me. But all the research I did, you know, there's so much benefit to baby to go on to the gestational carrier to just confirm her senses and all of these things. And so it was already our plan that she would spend a little bit of time there before she came to me. But I did plan to be at the birth. I know. And so, you know, I wanted to be part of it, but you know,
it wasn't meant to be. I just went through therapy sessions, you know?
I know. Well, that was what was so like, Krista knocks at my door 15 minutes later and she's like, we got to go. You have a baby. And I was like, what? And I'm kind of just laughing because at this point I'm like, she's like, everybody's fine. Baby's fine. Lety's fine. And I just am like, okay, I'm always way over prepared. I get there 5 weeks early, have all the stuff, and then like 15 minutes late to everything. Like this is my life. And so I just was kind of like laughing. We get there, we have to kind of wait, but I got to it was really scary. I think if I was there, I would have had to take that on.
Yeah.
And I had to come in knowing everybody was fine, knowing baby was fine, knowing Letty was fine. And as much as it was lost to not have that experience, in some ways I just got to come in and be like, everything's fine. All this stuff that I've been anticipating and worried about, we don't have to deal with any of it because she's here, and both of them are okay. And I just came in and they were all cuddled up together and I just went over and I'm like crying through my mask. And I'm like, I'm so glad you're okay. And then slowly because of course we also have to wait for them to, so I think even if we got there, I'm not even sure
I don't
we would
think
have
we
been.
would let them in. I think the amount of chaos.
Yeah.
For like the doctor to not have even been there, it was just so chaotic. I told Brie, I don't think you were meant to be in the room. Like it just the way that it happened, it would have just been like
trauma, maybe. I mean,
trauma. I said, and I think that, and I kidded with her. I was like, I think it just saved you a lot of therapy sessions. You probably. I was like, look at us being so proactive. Like, here's your baby. She she did great. Like,
fine. And they got to have some time together before it was just so there was no I mean, obviously you went through a lot, but we didn't have to navigate some of the parts of birth we were talking about, and it's interesting to be at somebody else's birth when it's your baby but you're not giving birth. There's a lot to navigate there, and we just got to skip it all, and so we could come in and just be happy that everybody was okay. And that's overwhelming sense of I get this gift of everybody's okay. And basically I slept through all of that pain. I'm dreaming about who knows what. So
that was your daughter letting you sleep through that pain.
I mean, I feel like from the beginning, she's given me these beautiful little moments of time to do the things that we need to do.
Because you're going to give her beautiful moments of time the rest of her life. So there you go, Mom.
I know. We're such a good team.
Cool. Sorry, Letty, that you had to go unmedicated, but it sounds like you did phenomenal.
0 out of 10, do not recommend.
Did you tear? Can I ask?
It was, she's like, I don't even want to call it a first degree. She's like, hey, I'm just going to stitch you so that it'll just heal up faster for you. She's like, and this baby was 8 pounds, 11 ounces, guys. This was not a teeny tiny little baby.
Wow. Was this the biggest baby you've had, Letty? Oh, it is.
And what was she 21 or 22?
Wow. 21 and a half.
21 and a half.
21 and a half.
Oh my gosh. My son, my first, was 8 pounds, 11 ounces, 21 and a half inches. So that was just my body just was like, nah, we're going to do the big baby first.
I'm 5'3". Okay. I'm a tiny person.
I'm tiny. I'm 5'4".
I have this giant baby kicking my butt and then didn't want to leave. She's like, had to evict her. And then when she decided, she was like, it's now. We're doing it right now.
Yeah. Her time. It's her time. I love it.
Well, it was funny because she had so much fluid. Every time you got an ultrasound, they were always there's a lot of fluid. And so we would make these really distasteful jokes, especially Letty's husband, about her water sliding out and doing a little dance on the table. And it was kind of funny until it actually happened. She just the fluid all came out. And that's that's one of the theories, is that there was so much fluid that her head wasn't pushing enough on the cervix to move it up.
She was ready, I was ready, but just some of the things. And so when they softened it just enough, it was gravity and just she was out.
So how long do you guys stay in the hospital after she's born?
So we checked in at 9:30. She was born at 5:52
a.m.
Just a few hours later. We blinked and she was here. And then I was like, can I go home? And they're like, well, first you gotta pee, had this many ounces, this many times. I was like, all right, bring me some water. Let's do it. And as soon as I had done the things that they wanted to see, and they checked my vitals, they're like, why do you want to leave? And I was like, you keep coming in here to wake me up. Like, why
Facts.
wouldn't I want to leave? She's like, you're
Yeah.
right. Absolutely. You're right. So I left that same day at like, what was it, like 6?
Like 12 hours after?
Yeah, I mean, it was
roughly?
like, yeah, roughly 12 hours.
And Bree, did you have to stay for 24 for the baby? Is that Kaiser?
So we stayed for one night. Well, it was interesting because the baby came, we're at Kaiser, and they're like, don't have enough rooms. So it was trying moments. So they put us in a room. Letty has her room. I have our room. And it's fine. But then they're like, well, we might have to move you out of this room because we don't have enough rooms. They're like, we're going to put you in what used to be the nursery, which is now just storage for all of the little like incubators in a little corner with like a rocking chair. And the nurse is like, well, I'm just going to be charting right over here. And they're like, nobody's going to come in here except for if they need to get circumcised. And so they'll bring the baby. And I was like,
No.
we are not going to stay here. And so we're talking to Letty. Letty's like, if that happens, like you guys can come in here because that's ridiculous. And then they ended up being the errors of their ways and making sure we had a room.
Good.
And it ended up being okay. But there was some time where I was just like, I'm gonna take this baby and we're gonna go back to the hotel and chill there because
Seriously.
I'm sorry, I'm not gonna sit there while somebody's baby's getting circumcised, like with my like first 24 hours with my daughter.
Right.
It was a little dicey there for a minute, but what was beautiful is Letty's like, no, if we need to all be in here, we'll do that because we care about each other and we want to make sure that it's okay. But luckily we didn't have to. And once she left, I think it freed up the room. So we were there, I think 24. It might have been like a little bit over 24 hours because there was something that she had to get done. But
and then do you stay at your hotel for an extended period of time or do you get to go back to Oregon? Because you're in the States.
So I went back to, I actually stayed in California for like a month and a half afterwards. I think it was like April 2nd. So it was like a month afterwards. So I stayed up at the Airbnb for 2 weeks. And we hung out afterwards, like Letty came and helped take care of the baby while I was like moving out of the Airbnb that I'd been in for like a month and a half. And we got to spend some time together during that time. And then I went to stay at a friend's house because I just wasn't prepared to go home and fly yet. And so she was about a month old when I came back up here. And it was really nice. Like it was kind of sad when we had to say goodbye because we'd spent a lot of time together. We'd seen each other very frequently, and it was a little like, oh, you're not just gonna be around the corner now. And but we've been able to see each other since, and that's good. Great. Yeah.
Your relationship seems your relationship just seems so beautiful. I mean, Letty's it makes me so happy that Lety heart has healed from her last journey. I mean, you can definitely see it, this whole time you guys are just your relationship. It's just so beautiful. And like, this is the thing that a lot of surrogates look for and want. And it's I'm not going to say it's very hard to find because it's not. You just have to know what to look for in matching. And you both did. You were both straight shooters. You both knew, both went with your guts. Yeah. And like, that's like the biggest thing when it comes to a journey is
sometimes surrogates
know
just want to match. And so they don't bring the hard topics up or like what they want to do. And it'll end up in a match, but sometimes those matches go south. I'm not saying all the time. I'm just saying sometimes if the communication's not genuine, like yours was very genuine. Like Letty was like, I don't even know if I want to talk to her. Like she needs to have this, and this. And I was like,
it's so cute. I love it.
Well, and I think it was really important. I realized it was really important to me to work with somebody who'd done surrogacy before, because I was really like caught up, you start the journey and I didn't have a lot of experience talking to surrogates. I had some stories, but really it was from the intended parent point of view. And so like in my mind, I'm still caught up in like all these, what are they going to feel if they, when the baby leaves? And so it was really, having worked with somebody who did it before, I knew that she had gone through that and was able to, and given her last journey, she had to even like stretch some of that a little bit further than normal. And it was still okay. And I think early on you said something like, well, I'm a teacher. I love those kids. And then I send them home at the end of the day and the end of the year. He's like, it's one thing to carry a baby in my body, but I do not want to be like, once they're out, that's a whole other, that's like a different baby. So, and everything that she said with that always put my heart at ease, that she knew what she needed emotionally and that she was going to be okay. And that like, this was my baby from the beginning. I never had to feel like it was always, this is my baby. And she's growing her and taking care of her and shaping her in that way that happens in utero, which I do feel like I really, really, really hope she picked up some of her like organization techniques and there's like some lettiness that but it's just, it just made it such a like very like clear experience, you know? And because of that, I think we could really ease into our relationship without worrying about like stepping on each other's toes.
Is there, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was saying, and we were just very like, we had all the hard conversations. Like like I said, I'm very like straightforward now. Like, hey Brie, like we need to talk. Here's the things we need to talk about. And I would give her some time and like set a later date so she could like work through, you know, all the things. Like, so we knew each other like pretty well and you kind of had to like approach each other and really Brie like won me over. One, like my daughter loves her. I tell people all the time, like, if you know my husband, you know he is very particular with like just like making friends. He's like more like an introvert. He loves Brie, and that says a lot. Like he's just like he like she made the time to get to know all three of us and like spent a lot of time not just with me but with like she'd come over and then I wouldn't see her for 3 hours. She was in the room with my daughter playing, you know, and then I'd be like, excuse me, can I have my friend back? Like, so it was a lot of like relationship building, but not just like her and I. It's just
family.
Family, because the family is a huge part of it. We all know that, but sometimes they're lost in the mix.
And early on, I always wanted to recognize her daughter and her husband's role in, because like you're doing shots, her daughter's giving, you know, up some of her mom's attention and like it's a family affair and they are such a tight-knit family as well and such a team that it was like so much about them all working together, which is another reason why I really wanted to work with Lety, is that her family was like, it was so clear how much support she had within her family. And it was just calm. Like it was always just calm. And that was like a great experience and a great place for, you know, Lety to be pregnant and for MJ to develop in utero. You know, there wasn't going to be stuff that like it was going to be.
She spent enough time here where she got to know like my marriage and my mothering style and like you know she spent enough time at in my home where she just knew us really well and so it was, and I know that like trust me when like the first time that she was gonna come I was just like, oh my gosh, she's gonna think we're crazy, you know. Or like you just don't know what people like expect or like how they grew up or whatever, but I'm like, you know what, this is us and it just worked out. So we had a good time.
What is each of you, what is advice? Like Brie, what is something, one piece of advice that you would give to an intended parent that's just starting their journey?
I would say, you know, take the time to, I really feel like finding different levels of connection. I mean, number one, know what you want in your relationship with your surrogate. Like, if you want somebody who's going to build a relationship afterwards, like, just be very clear there is enough for everybody, and it really is about trusting your gut to match with the right person. But it really is important to get some of those things, from like what's your parenting style to what do you want in during birth. Like have all those hard conversations early on, because then it allows you to move on to friendship. But don't be afraid to ask for what you want on both ends. I think it's like knowing what you want. I definitely had a challenge being like, because it's like dating, you're like swipe left, swipe right, and there's a lot of vulnerability putting yourself out there to be chosen. But that's just a moment, and what really matters is that in between time. So you really want to take a heartbeat to make sure you're matched with somebody that, I mean, you're spending at least 9 months, hopefully longer, being in partnership with them. And, there's a lot of negotiation on many different levels. So just take a little extra time and believe that there's somebody out there for you. Yeah.
Very good advice.
Great
So
advice.
that you're worthy of it. And everybody, yeah.
No, it's great advice.
That's great advice.
Letty, what
What
about
about you,
you?
Letty?
What's something you'd give advice to a surrogate, repeat or newbie?
You know what? You don't know what you don't know, but especially surrogates who have done a journey before. One, if you're brand new, make surrogate friends who've done it more than one time.
Yeah.
Like, don't go off all the Instagram stories. Like, talk to people. Like, send them messages. Ask them.
We're all nice.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think 99.9 of us are pretty helpful. And we all want to share and tell you, like, don't you like red flag. If you ever have a gut feeling, like honestly, reach out to any one of us, even if you don't know us. I think we would be glad to be like, you're
100%.
absolutely right. Or
Right.
or I know someone who had that. Let me connect you to
Yes.
them,
Yes.
because
Yes.
we talk to so many people. And then
100%.
if you've done it again, to just really take what you've learned, whether it was a great journey or not a great journey,
Mhm.
and that there's hope really
Yeah.
for a good outcome. And you, like kind of what Brie said, you have to find someone that you can connect on other levels than just pregnancy, if that's what you want, of course. I'm not saying
Right.
that every surrogate wants that,
Right. No.
but Brie and I we have a lot of similarities. Like we could spend all day at Michael's, and we love crafting and cricketing and doing all of the, DIY stuff. And
Yeah.
we connect with like child development, and like she was a preschool teacher and then I'm a teacher, and but we're also very different in a lot of other ways, where she's just, I tell her she's very woo-woo, like and I'm just like, you know what, here's my realistic point of view of that. Like,
Love it.
and so we have kind of like a balance, and just kind of meeting each other in the middle and understanding that what's important to her, I should try to meet her halfway, and vice versa, and finding someone who's willing to do that. So.
Yeah, the mutual respect thing is a
Right.
huge thing in surrogacy. That's a huge thing.
And I also think another thing to add is try to like do your research from the other perspective. I think listening to Letty's story on your podcast pretty much blew my mind and really gave me a really different perspective on both sides. As a surrogate, listening to some intended parents' journey from their perspective, and as intended parents, listening to a surrogate's experience from that perspective, it just really, and share it with your family, because I think there's so much that people don't really understand, that getting that little bit of somebody else's story takes away some of that like resistance, and you can really connect.
It normalizes it. I was like, she's like, is it okay if I share your podcast with like my friends and family? I was like, girl, send it to everyone. Like everyone should hear all of the stories. Like it normalizes it. And it's different when you know someone, because it's like, you know this person, you love this person, or have a connection, and it kind of brings it from like this like
humanizes it.
It humanizes, normalizes, like, hey, these
absolutely.
are normal people trying to have families. These are
Yeah.
normal people trying to help
Yep.
these people have families, you know?
Yes.
It's not, like,
It's just normal.
All in it for the
That's
same goal, same end goal. All of us are in it for the same end goal. Yep.
Yeah.
mhm.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you, ladies, so much for
Nice.
speaking with us. This was awesome.
Yeah. I'm so excited to hear, like, as a series of having intended parents and surrogates together develops. I think it's like, it's such a great perspective, and it's really nice to see it from the other side, I think, when you're in the midst of that, because it can be really daunting and isolating, especially on the intended parent side.
It's scary.
It is. And it's like, if you see other
It
people,
is. Yeah.
and the surrogate side, like, once you know that there's other people navigating this and that it can turn out well or poorly, and you can learn from those things, it just makes it a little easier.
Yes.
Exactly.
Like you're saying, normal.
Yeah.
It does.
Well, amazing.
Well
Thank
said.
you.
All the work you guys are doing too.
Oh, well, we're happy to do it. We appreciate everybody who comes on and shares their stories.
Sweet.
It's just, we love doing this. We love talking and making new friends. And thank you, ladies. We appreciate it.
Yeah, that was great to talk to you both.
Yes. Have a wonderful evening.
Yes, thanks for having us, guys.
Get some sleep, Brie.
Thank you.
I know, right? Go take a nap.
Yeah.
Oh, that's my daughter. She has 4 a.m. party time. But she's amazing.
Yeah.
Every moment. Even when I'm like, I love you so much. But also, she kicked Lety for a whole 9 months, and now she kicks me all night long. We go to sleep, and she's just like, boom, boom, boom. I'm like, Lety, I feel your pain.
Oh, so
cute.
Oh my gosh. Well, congratulations. And thank you, ladies, so much for sharing your story.
Yeah. Thanks, Lety.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Brie.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, you guys. Have a good one. Oh my gosh. Well, this is
fun.
long, but this was so fun. And I kind of hope that we get more surrogates and intended parents that like together, like what a fun little
And they don't have to be the greatest of stories. There could be hiccups.
No.
I mean, but it's so helpful to just hear it, right?
Yeah. And see that, oh, hey, look, they can still talk afterwards and like be perfectly fine. Yeah, no, I love that.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, ladies. If anybody has any questions or stories that they would like to share, please feel free to reach out to us on Instagram at Stop.Sit.Surrogate.
Been another edition of Stop.Sit.Surrogate with Kenedi and Ellen. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.